Present.
Council DeBona.
Present.
Council Finn.
Present.
Council Harris. Council Hughes. Present. Council Rose. Present. Council Yang. Present. Council Calhoun.
Present. Okay, members, we have a quorum. I'm just going to read into the record the open meeting law, which is as follows. Pursuant to the open meeting law, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit the meeting to a meeting. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings or transmissions are being made, whether perceived or unperceived by those present, and are deemed acknowledged and permissible. I think, as we all know here this evening, this is a fourth meeting of the budget hearing for fiscal year 2017. Would at this point invite Director of Finance, Mark Kavanaugh, to the podium. Mark, I believe you're going to share with us some modifications in terms of negotiation. I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To you, the council. During the mayor's presentation of the 2017 budget on May 2nd, he had explained that the cost of living increases of 1% for 2016 and 2% for 2017 were built into the line items for each department for all employees. The mayor further explained in the May 2nd presentation that those proposed numbers were dependent upon the 9 unions agreeing to terms with the city. If the agreements were not reached, the funds would be backed out of those line items. To date, 2 of the 9 unions have agreed to terms, and as such, the auditor's office and my office have been working on backing out those funds, identifying and reconciling the funds, and we are in agreement for all line items except those involving the 2 unions who have settled. What we would be proposing to do is put those funds in a reserve for appropriation for purposes of moving forward with this budget. We would be back before you in the fall if the remaining unions in the city are able to come to terms and ask for all remaining appropriations regarding cost of living increases at that time. So the only cost of living increases, the 1 to 2%, would be for the 2 settled unions. I think it's public buildings and fire alarm. We've used this procedure in past years, as the auditor can attest to. It allows the city the flexibility to continue negotiations with the unions in the coming weeks and pending council appropriations of those funds in reserve. The important point is that making this move, this transaction, we'd be back before you in the fall for any further appropriations beyond those 2 unions. So that's it.
Okay, so I'm assuming that when we go through the salary component this evening, you'll still be around.
I'll be here all the time.
Any questions from councilors on Director Kavanaugh's? Councilman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to be clear, this is now before us as an amendment of the mayor's budget.
It's actually, the auditor and I talked about that. I thought we might be going with the motion, but it's really a financial transaction, transferring funds from the individual line items of the unions and all line items that don't have a union agreement at this time. Putting them into a reserve for appropriation, we would have to be back before.
Well, I think I understand it would be that transaction if we actually had a budget, but this is a proposed budget, so I'm presuming it must be
budget lines, those
as
budget
amended.
amounts wouldn't change.
Okay, correct. But I guess I'm not sure how, in terms of the document itself, in terms of the budget, how is this reflected through you to the auditor?
Ms. Counselor, the document that you'll be voting on is the council order for the budget in its total. Then when we do complete the detailed history of it, within that, each of those personnel lines within those departments will be reduced, and that money will go into a reserve for appropriation line for salaries, so it will not change the bottom line of the budget.
No, I understand all of that. I'm just trying to understand how this is really before us this evening. It strikes me is that needs to be reflected outside of those line items into a different, obviously, into a different account of the budget itself.
Well,
We
it-
currently have an existing reserve for appropriation, so.
We have a reserve for appropriation for the OPEB and I believe the stabilization. I'd have to look through my budget book, but there is a line in there for salaries. It has a zero in there right now. So what will happen is when the council order has been completed, you will see on that council order that I believe it's, and Mark, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it's about $1,544,000.
It's, yes, I have $1,458,246 just for the general fund.
Correct.
We have to do the same transaction, and the line item exists in the general ledger, because we've used it in previous years for this very purpose. It would be another $51,000 for water, $35,000 change for sewer. The total would be $1,545,582 put into a reserve. And the lines exist, we've used them previously, and we'd be back before the body for any appropriations out of that reserve.
Mark, if I recall correctly, though, in the past, when we've got reserve for appropriation, we've actually had amounts of line items for proposed budgets. Are we saying we don't presently have such an amount?
There would be backup for each line adding up to this total. We have the backup, but when I was thinking we were making an order before the meeting, Susan wanted just the totals of general fund water and sewer, so I came in with the totals. But the totals are backed up by individual line items.
I get that, I suppose, but from a procedural perspective, I'm uncertain what would I be cutting if I were proposing a cut.
If this is an amendment to the budget, it's not changing the bottom line of the budget. If you were proposing a cut to any of the salary lines that was any of, let's say, the unions or the non-union lines, you would be proposing the cut out of the reserve for appropriation salaries. Because at the end, when the council order is completed, that's where that money will be.
So then that would probably occur at the time when we're voting on the final budget.
Correct.
Thank you.
And it's so unclear too. I mean, we're essentially waiting for the negotiations to take place and agree upon a number. That's why we're putting this number, these monies in escrow account, for lack of a better word, or the council Finn's point. If you look at the spreadsheet that was handed out in terms of the financial analysis, this is the number that we were confident in that. Right?
That's why I understand.
Any further questions for Mark? He's going to be around.
Point of order, but you referred to this as an vote.
I believe that you would,
The mayor simply brought it before us, and it's just part of his budget.
correct.
Thank you. I am, Chairman, thank you.
You'll be hanging around just in case.
I'll be hanging around.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to welcome to the microphone, President Hughes.
Okay, showtime now? Yes. Good evening, everybody. It's lovely to be here. I'm presenting for the first time as Council President on this budget. And as you can see, there is a decrease in this year's budget from the 2016 budget. But I am happy to answer any questions if you have any, except from Council President.
Council Forrest?
Motion to approve.
Motion to Council Stone on the motion.
I'd like to talk a little bit about line item 510002, which is the city councilor line item,
Yes.
if I could. I was part of some cuts up there, to be very honest with you, for some departments. And I feel that, in my personal opinion, being on the council here for my 6th month, I don't think I really deserve the raise. So, in my personal opinion, I am going to cut from this budget line item. And so it's $206,336. Continue. Sorry, continue. That is the total amount requested for 2017, and the budgeted amount is 2016 is $204,058. So I would like to make a cut of $2,278 to that line item.
On the amendment, Councilman Calucci.
I agree, Councilor Bowles does not deserve a raise. Very hard as a board counselor. I do believe I deserve a raise, but the symbolism of what my colleague is doing is not lost upon me, and I'll support the cut, even though I believe I deserve a raise. I'll support it.
Thank you, Councilman. 2,278.
If I could just address that briefly, this is just a cost of living raise. It's not a attaboy for you. So it's just a cost of living raise.
If I could, Mr. Chairman. If I could, Councilor. If I could.
If I feel bad bringing this up to the 5 existing councilors that are presently on the council. However, I believe it's my duty to say what I think is the correct thing to do. If I'm stringing upon other department heads, or if I'm stringing upon other areas of the budget and I pursue to cut them, what's the term? Calling the kettle black. I don't feel that it's my. I don't feel it's right for me to get a raise. I feel that out there in the private sector, you're evaluated over the course of primarily a year. You're based on what you do as a counselor, what you do in your job. And I don't think I've fulfilled that yet. And if I've elapsed that 12-month term, I think I can elapse on what has happened and transpired through those 12 months of being a counselor. And that's just my personal opinion.
I don't think the cost of living raise is necessarily reflective of performance, but that's not. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to reserve the right to be able to vote on future merit raises for councilors to vote on. That would be okay.
Me too.
The $253 means I'm going to have to put off that life-saving operation. But through you to the auditor, does this have the appropriate leap year adjustment in this? Is the number he's proposing is the accurate number to effect that?
What was the number that you were actually used?
$2,270, which keeps it exactly the same as the budget for 2016.
That's correct.
Thank you. Lynn, my support as well. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any further discussion on the amendment? Seeing none? No? Okay. Now starts to call the roll. And that is, to cut by $2,270. The line item. Yep, 51002. And click, please call the roll.
Council Campbell.
Yes.
Council Bowles.
Yes.
Council Finn.
Yes.
Council Harris.
Yes.
Council Hughes.
Can I reserve 1 moment? Just a second. No, okay. All right, no.
Council Forrest. Yes. Council Leeang.
Yes.
Council Calucci.
Yes.
Chairman Bowles.
Yes. Any further questions for Councilor Hughes on the city council budget at large? Council Finn?
Yeah, again, I respect the president's right, again, in terms of developing this specific probably going to vote no for the budget itself, simply because it does reflect some personnel cuts that, to me, were kind of, again, something that had developed over time and was based primarily on the fact that, councilors had indicated that particularly the level of work and support that they required was not always meeting that. And again, so I'm just opposed. I have no problem with cutting our salary, but I am generally opposed to cutting the budget, so I'm probably going to vote no. Thank you.
Thanks, Council. Is there a motion to move approval on the budget as whole? Yes, Council LaForest. Okay, motion made. Go.
Council King.
Yes.
Council Bowman.
Yes.
Council Finn.
No.
Council Harris.
Yes.
Council Booth.
Yes.
Council Ball.
Yes.
Council Ham.
Yes.
Council Calucci.
Yes.
Chairman Cole.
Yes.
Thank you, President.
Thank you. Thank you all. It's a pleasure serving as the president of such an esteemed body. So thank you very much.
Next item on the agenda is traffic parking and lighting. Mr. Coffey, good evening. How are you?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. I'm fine. Good evening, Council. Mr. Chairman, I had planned to review the presentation that I gave a few weeks ago, but I did want to touch on a few issues that were brought up that evening and hope I can consider. I think the first thing I'd like to say, there is a substantial amount of work required with the traffic parking along the lighting arena. I think we know that. We've heard that every single day from your own constituents. We're hearing from the mayor, we'd like to see some action. We'd like to see some action now. We have significant and growing traffic flow issues throughout the entire city. Some intersections in particular are almost impassable at certain hours of the day. We have parking enforcement issues across the city, both within residential areas and some of the business districts as well. We have to do a better job of enforcement. We need to develop and implement interim parking plans for Quincy Center. It's proceeded already, but there's a lot more work to do. As you know, we'll have some garages going in soon as well. We need to address the double pole issue. Within the city, we shouldn't be the reason why Verizon and National Grid and Comcast can't remove the double poles. I think we need to make sure that they're not the reason. We have to look at and investigate the pole box alarm maintenance issue. How many pole boxes do we have in service and how many are out of service? It's a top priority. I've discussed that with the chief. We need to select and implement a new citywide LED system. That entails replacing almost 6,700 streetlights. There's a lot of coordination required going around the entire city. There's going to be parking issues, there's detail issues, there's going to be tree trimming issues. There's a host of issues associated with that. And as I indicated a few weeks ago, we'll be back, I think, in a couple of weeks, or at an upcoming council meeting to brief you on the progress of that project. As I mentioned also a few weeks ago, I spent a long career in Verizon, and AT&T and some of the other telecom companies. And a number of those years, about 8 or 9 years, I was the director of process engineering within the company. And my team developed various departments within Verizon and their subsidiaries. And when there was a problem with a sales process or a revision procedure, or a customer care organization, or a billing issue, or repair issues that we were receiving complaints upon from customers, our team would get involved. We followed the same approach every time we get involved. We would identify, document, and then quantify the problem. Quantification was key because a lot of times you ended up trying to solve problems that really weren't solvable to begin with. They had no monetary value or no value for the customer. Step 2 was to develop plans to address these problems. Step 3 was to obtain resource support. That really meant dollars and people to work on implementing these solutions. Step 4 was then to test these potential solutions to make sure that they could work. Step 5 was then to implement the solutions. And the most important solution was, the important step was the last step, which was really to measure the results. Was the work we do, was what we did. Was it worthwhile? Did it work as planned? And I go over that only because that's the same approach we want to use with the traffic parking lot. We've got a lot of issues. We really want to go at it systematically, put together plans, implement those plans and measure our success. I think what came up in the past too is who's going to play what role within the organization, and I plan to be a single point of contact within the organization. I expect to get calls from you and emails and to meet with you. As a matter of fact, I plan to meet with you in early July, vacations notwithstanding, and get your input on the issues affecting your various areas and your constituents in your areas. I also would like to provide progress reports as we move forward, so that you know that this isn't smoke and mirrors. We're not going to accomplish everything, but I think we're going to accomplish a lot, and I plan to be as transparent as possible, sharing that with you. And I'm more than happy to do a progress review across the board here in front of the council every 6 months or some sort of thing to let the people at home see that as well. And what I'd like to do is come back here a year from now, and you can tell us how you did as well. We're going to fail, we're going to C, or we're going to A, or B. Another issue came up, I think, a few weeks ago regarding the budget. There was some concern that the documents we prepared weren't as clear as they should have been. I met with Susan O'Connor, our auditor. We went through the budget. She went through the budget with a fine-tooth comb. She did find a small modification or two, I believe, Susan, that had to be changed, and we did change that. One of it was regarding fire details. They shouldn't be charged to the budget. They should be charged to an off-budget fund. So I think we're making that change. I know union issues came up as a potential concern a few weeks ago as well. I have met with the HR director, who assures me that there are no union issues that she's aware of. There is, in fact, a contract that was signed several years ago that does allow fire alarm personnel to do street light work as well as traffic signal work. As I said a few weeks ago, there's no current plans to make that happen, but there is an agreement to that effect. And there's no known 1139 issues. So with that, I'll answer any questions you may have.
Council Calhoun.
Thank you. Thanks, Mike. I appreciate you coming back here. And let me just at the outset say, I'm not certain where I'm going to vote on this tonight. It's largely going to depend on our conversation. I have the utmost confidence that you would be able to lead the department, ensure the department being created. It has nothing to do with you personally. And I'll tell you what my issue here is. I may have said this the last time you were up here, but several years ago we were asked in the budget process to move the traffic department out from under its own ground and put it in the DPW. And the argument that we heard at that point, not argument, but the case that we heard at that point was, it'll ease the administrative burden on the traffic engineer. You won't have oversight of staff like they do now. They won't have to do some of the administrative tasks that keep them off the street and actually address the traffic. And at the time, I said, oh, well, that sounds good to me. It sounds like we'll get more work from the traffic department. Things will be better. And since that time, things have gotten far worse than they were. They've gotten consistently worse year after year. I think that was about 3 years ago, maybe a little bit more, maybe 4 or 5. Things have gotten consistently worse. And granted, I don't think it helped that we went like a year and a half without a traffic engineer in the city. I'm sure that only compounded the problems that we have. So where I'm at this point, where my thinking is in terms of my goal is that the last time I accepted on its face the argument that, or the case that things will get better if we move the traffic department from here to there. And in terms of lighting and alarms, that's not my issue with this particular move. My issue is the last time I did it, things got way worse, and I wish I did. I wish I could take that vote back. I wish I could keep the traffic department in and of itself, its own department, because things got worse. So what I am hoping in the discussion with you tonight, in your presentation, and comments to other councils, is to hear how this is going to make things better. I need more than just, hey, we think it's going to make things better. It's going to ease the administrative burden on the traffic engineer, and therefore allow the traffic engineer to do more traffic engineer things to make the city flow better, to make it safer for both pedestrians and for motorists. So, first of all, I suppose, I want to know what's wrong. What's the problem currently? I don't think there's anyone, perhaps in this well or in this this chamber who would say the traffic department is humming. It is a fine-tuned machine. Things are being responded to. The city's traffic flow is great. Pedestrian safety is at the max it could be. I don't think that's the case, and I don't know what the problem is. I have a very small piece to play, a very small part to play in the overall part. I hear from residents. I pass it on to the appropriate department. When it relates to traffic matters, I pass it on to the traffic engineer. And that's my role. I see whether or not those things get responded to. They do, not on the same level that they used to, not at the same speed, and that's one of the things that you addressed last time. You said that won't happen. You know, moving forward, things will be quicker, there'll be better response, there'll be accountability, if you will. So I appreciate that. That, to some degree, will make things better for me in knowing the things that are getting done that I'm putting forth for residents that send them to me. But there's a lot bigger problems. I mean, I took the example of the do not enter both ends of a street with no other access at the same time. I don't know how that happens. I don't know what the protocols are now that allows something like that to happen. We have, in my ward, the Center Street and Bergen Parkway lights have been down for 2 weeks. They were down for at least a week before a police detail was put up. The number of phone calls that I got about that, not just from residents, but from business owners, from folks up at Crown Hall. It's the premier office park on the South Shore. They're actively marketing available space up there. There's ongoing development projects in the area. You can't get into the downtown, into the city without going down Bergen Parkway. And that's the main artery. Here we are talking about spending $138 million on infrastructure improvements to bring people downtown. We can't get the lights that let you into the city to work. It's embarrassing to be the ward councilor that we can't get that done. But I gotta tell people, I don't know. You know, we get calls from contractors, there's a part missing. So there's problems, and I think no one will argue with that there aren't problems. Why? Why is it the way it is? Do you have any idea? And my hope here is that in order to fix things, as we would expect you to do if you take over this department, in order to, it's like a doctor, in order to cure the patient, you have to know what the illness is. So I don't know what the problem is. I only have my very limited view of what's going on in that department. I don't know if there aren't enough personnel, if they need more staff, if you need another traffic engineer, if you need 2 more traffic engineers, if you need more people making signs. I honestly don't know. I don't know if it's the people who are there need additional training, need additional oversight, or they're just not up to par for where they should be. I don't know that. I'm hoping you have a better idea, and you can tell this body what the problem is with the current traffic department, and then how you would make that better, how you would improve that, and how creating this department will enable you to do that.
Well, I'll start by saying I share your concerns, every single one of them. I think all of us do. I know the mayor does, and I think that's the reason why he wants to do this, to move this forward. I think and I'm not an expert. I'm hoping to become an expert. I'm learning very, very quickly about all of these issues. I think there's a number of reasons why this has gotten worse. The staffing is certainly one of them. We've had folks out on illness. We've had vacancies. We do some changes in the organization, so staffing hasn't been at the level it should have been. I'm not sure yet, Council, if that's the right staffing level, but we'll find that out very quickly. I think there's growing traffic issues. I don't think the traffic issues have remained constant. I think they've gotten worse. I think they've gotten worse as a result of some development, quite honestly, which is natural. You bring more people into the city and more development, and you have more traffic issues to deal with. And I'm not sure we've dealt with them as well as we could. I think we're going to address some of that in the CIP program. The mayor's view is that we should really be looking at a citywide traffic flow study where we could bring in experts in. We've done this before for other cities and towns. And give an initial assessment. Are there some areas that we shouldn't get involved? Should we be re-engineering 4 or 5 new large intersections? We also have funding in the mayor's putting in there to rehab 4 or 5 large intersections. One of which investment is going to be the Center Street Bergen Parkway intersection. Matter of fact, I drove down at 11 o'clock today, expecting to see a mess with the details, and there's no traffic. I was shocked. But, so maybe that's the time to go through that intersection. I don't mean to make light of it, it was just I did go down there because I heard the same thing you heard. Traffic signaling management system that I think we discussed, or you brought up a few weeks ago, which was a system that allowed the traffic department to modify traffic signals and the timing and sequencing of traffic signals remotely. It was implemented, I think, 8 or 9 years ago. It was used for a few years. The prior traffic engineer left, and then he came back in 2008 and re-energized that. He started that going again, subsequently left again, and the traffic signaling management system died on the vine. I looked into that, as to why. I got, quite honestly, 4 or 5 different stories. What I did find out, though, is the software that we used for that is circa 1997. It would only work on a PC that was 2003 or before, so it wouldn't work on any current PCs within the city. So there's some hardware issues there, there's some software issues. There's also some networking issues that the lines that connect that traffic management signaling system, or traffic signal management system, to the actual signals have been disconnected during the inventory cleanup. I don't know how many of them have or not, but we have money. Once again, I think we're putting that into the CIP to restart that. I think that's fundamental, especially in this day and age, that we should have a person sitting there in our offices that's able to look at a trouble spot and see, and actually see how many cars are queuing, see if there's a traffic area, see if we should be sequencing better. I know one area in Ward 6 on, I think the city and the state did a great job at the intersection of Hancock Street, West and Swanee Street. It's almost a pleasure to drive through there now, with the exception if you're coming from the golf course and you can hit a line of 4 or 5 lights there, and they just were not sequenced properly. You can see that. And Council, I see you shaking your head if you go through that area that you say, why does the intersection work so well except for this little section of it, heading into one there? I think that's something that's addressed with the signaling, the management, traffic signaling management system. And I think on top of that, Councilor, as I said already, I do plan to take a programmatic approach to that. I measure or not whether we can accomplish them. I make a list. Here's all the things we have to do. We can debate them back and forth, and I like to check them off. I'll share that list with you. If your issues are not on the list, then there's a problem. As I learn more, about the issues within this department, then I'll be reporting back. And I don't know if it's right-sized or not. I suspect some of it's understaffed, just because I know that we have to go outside for support for some issues. If we have a knockdown on a pole right now or a light, we own it. We've got to go outside to do it. We have one electrician within the traffic department that does signals, there's traffic lights as well. So there are some resource issues, but I couldn't give you an answer on what the right size would be. So I hope that.
No, it does. I'm taking notes while you're talking, so I can hold you accountable next time. But the 3 things that you told me, tell me if I'm wrong. Staffing, there's been vacancies, there's been people out, perhaps understaffed, don't know yet. Number 2, we're not utilizing technology to review our current infrastructure properly. And 3, we could be perhaps better engineering our intersections and timing wise. Right, those are the kind of the 3 big.
Yes.
As it relates to the staff, currently under the DPW, with the traffic department under the DPW, we're allowed to utilize personnel in the DPW to kind of backfill some of the traffic issues, right? I think that's happening. If we move TPAL out, or traffic out of the DPW and put it into TPAL, do we not then lose that available resource of having DPW employees go over into the traffic department for, a day, a week, or whatever, when needed, if someone's out, or because it just happens to be a big need? Don't we lose that ability, that flexibility of personnel to shift them over if they're no longer in the same department?
Well, I hope not. At the end of the day, we're all on the same team. I know Commissioner Raimondi has taken highway people each year for the last several years to put them over on painting to help out the traffic department.
Right.
So he's been very generous with that, and I think if I call Commissioner Raimondi or the Parks Commission or the police chief or the fire chief, we expect their support just as, they would expect to get support from us as well.
Just don't tell them it's for something. But, so, when you also spoke too about the development, that's of particular interest to me. If you look at the document that the planning department put out recently, I think I said this the last time you were here, 64% of all development taking place right now in the city, all new units coming online under the permit are in Ward 4. We're also a cut through for everybody else to leave the city, with the exception of Ward 6 and they're going over the bridge. You come into Ward 4 to get out of the city, and then to get back into the city. So traffic, I think, I'm not trying to take, stand higher than other wards in this, but traffic really affects the quality of life issues in Ward 4 in a larger way perhaps than we do in other places. Obviously, the city's going to they have traffic in the city, and every neighborhood in the city, and every ward is affected by that. But given the way Ward 4 is situated in South and West Quincy, I don't know of a single neighborhood that I represent that doesn't have some level of cut-through traffic or speed as it relates to traffic. That's a major concern that folks that send me up here have. So I'm, it's one that I share with them.
On a point related to that, maybe the same point is, Quincy is a pass-through community. When we talk about a citywide traffic flow study, I'd like to see the state step up. We have people from Hingham, Cohasset, Situate, Weymouth, Braintree, they go to Quincy. And I think that's, as a matter of fact, I would love to know what the percentage of out-of-town traffic is that comes through the city, or non-Quincy traffic. Is it 30%, 50%, 60%? I don't know, but it'd be an interesting number to look at. And, you see that certainly at Bergen Park, but you see it on Quincy Shore Drive, you can go the other way, trying to get up through that C Street intersection, which brings you to the Southern Artery, down to Weymouth and other towns. Very, very difficult. So I'm going to work with Frank Tramatozzi, we discussed it a little bit to see if we can kind of take a broader view, maybe, and maybe the state can get involved. I know they're doing some work on C Street now, or there's a project down there, so maybe we can engage them as well, and they can give us some pointers on this. Because it does seem to me that we have a lot of traffic out there, and I wonder how much of it is non-Quincy traffic. And I'm wondering if some of the unintended effects of making a change here lose traffic over here. I don't know that for sure, but I wonder about that. And I think we have to make sure that if we make some changes, we don't have some unintended effects as well. We don't want to move traffic into neighborhoods. We want to minimize. I don't know what the answer is to that no-wave street. You can't come in at one end or the other end, but I'll look into that and see why that happens.
Working with the state obviously is difficult too. I'm listening to the Furnaceburg Parkway, and then the highways. The highway where you drive on Willow Street during rush hour at any point of Bates Ave. It's a mess of people. I'm just trying to beat one exit and just jamming up the street, putting them in. And they're going to complain about specific traffic issues. It's been discussed up here, and I don't know if Council Finnerty, more the historian now than he is of the council legacies here, but I know it was discussed before I got on the council. It's been discussed at least a couple of times since I've been on the council. And I'm wondering what and I don't mean to put you on the spot with this, but I'm wondering what your position is on a traffic commission, the traffic advisory council. I think the council is, since I've been on it, passed resolutions asking the administration to put forth one. I don't know if Mr. Walker would refer to answer that on behalf of the administration or you. I don't want to put you on the spot to say something different than what the mayor thinks, but is there a role here? I mean, does it make sense to bring citizens in to create a committee, an advisory committee, where some of this stuff is vetted? Through you, Mr. Chairman, perhaps to Mr. Walker.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, there's two pieces to that, Councilor, and I think the administration is certainly open to an advisory committee as we go forward. I think as part of the overall traffic study, pedestrian studying, bicycle safety study, those sorts of efforts that are going to be getting underway. No question that the citizen advisory piece component is going to be an important part of that process. In fact, I suggest that it's going to drive some of that process. When we get out into the neighborhoods and start asking people directly, what are your issues here? Let us know so we can go back and try to draw up the improvements. Now, the second piece of that is the formal traffic commission. And it has been something that's been discussed in this body several times over the last several years. It's something that certainly, again, the mayor would be happy to take a look at as we move through this process.
Has he not taken a look at it in the years that it's been discussed?
I think we're in a process now where we're laser focused on this particular matter. So
Is it the CIP?
right.
Yeah.
Correct.
Thank goodness for the CIP. It will solve every problem facing the city.
Look forward to the hearings.
We appreciate you, Ron.
Yes. I don't know what the traffic commission says, but we got to do something different. I'm curious to learn more about what getting into the neighborhoods and asking people means. I'm not asking you now, but I mean, that would be terrific. Again, the magic bullet that is the CIP, if we move forward with this citywide traffic plan and really go neighborhood by neighborhood, that sounds like a wonderful idea and a great undertaking, which other than you have a part to play in that. But, well, I don't want to dominate the entire time. I have some of my other colleagues who have questions, but I appreciate you coming back and answering my questions.
Thank you, Council. Before I go to Council Cannon, I just have one sort of thought for you, Mike, was to sit there and listen to you take us through the whole board vision for the department. I noticed in the line item breakout, you had about $23,000 for communication. Just a thought, that as you wish, should this go forward, obviously a big concern, I'll get to that after Council Cannon, every fellow councils weigh in on it, but parking is equally as pressing when we get into some of these neighborhoods. And obviously, we have a residential parking permit requirement. It may not be enforced, but it's there. One of the thoughts may be, Chief Keenan to be a really good guy, so he could potentially be a resource for you, is communicating with residents from you. Because, right, they call me, and I call into the departments, and whether or not there's a resolve there may or may not happen. But if they hear from you that, hey, you know what, there's a residential parking permit requirement, and then the enforcement piece potentially takes effect with community police officers. Right. Because that's something that you really got to think about. You really think about.
But, several folks have mentioned that to me already, and I think
You mentioned what? That there's a parking problem?
Enforcement of residential overnight parking. It's, I think selectively enforced right now when a problem arises. I think it's been there for years and years and years, and I think that's something we should look at. Should we be more aggressive in enforcing that citywide? There's some pros to that, there's some cons to that, there's some issues associated with that, but I think it's something we should discuss in the future. Should we be modifying that? I know some of the online media that I see around the city, there's some issues with that now. Some neighbors are using it as a tool to punish a neighbor they don't like. So there's all sorts of issues around that. There's some improvements that could be made. We could have guest passes for overnight parking as well when the kids come home. I see that online before as well. So I think it's probably a good time to explore that whole issue and maybe step up the enforcement of that.
Well, it's education.
Well, in education of that too. Well,
That's the piece. A lot of folks are unaware that this even exists.
well, yeah,
And the challenge becomes.
right, I might have just pointed that. Maybe that's the starting point of that. Folks have to understand there is no overnight parking in the city of Quincy after 11 p.m. without an on-street parking permit or a handicap stop.
I don't know what the answer is.
Maybe, well, you're right.
I'm just sharing with you kind of an idea that dawned on me as I sit there and listen to the deliberation, because I think to Council Palmucci's point, your suggestion, this sounds great for the podium, but how does it get into the neighborhood? That's where the rubber meets the road.
Absolutely.
There, but that's
And I think that's a big issue that's, in my mind, at least the neighborhoods I live in the city, is getting exacerbated by the conversion of single-family homes to three-family homes. 2-family homes to 4-family homes. And you go from having 2 cars to 8 cars. And I don't know anybody who has a driveway for 8 cars, so they end up on the street.
Thank you. I'll come back. Council King.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. He stole my thunder. I think, well, first, I have to agree with Council Calmucci. I agree with the approach of identifying problems and then creating solutions to those. So, I would like to hear a little bit more by way of where are the problems in the department currently, especially with traffic and parking, and what are the solutions that you're going to bring. The anecdotal stories are one thing, but, concrete, these are 4 problems, this is what I'm going to do. I want to hear more of that. Secondly, I think you're in a unique position. You're going to take over the department. You're basically, this is a net creation of $2.6 million in the budget. And, you're in a position, I think, that you can make great welcome change in the city. Instead of jacking up the budget, you can actually create revenues. Let's look at what Councilor Cole just talked about, residential parking permit. $25 a year per car. It's easy. How much money is that for a city of 96,000 people? Enforce it. Get people to park in their driveways. Get the people that violate parking in the neighborhoods and make them a T. I think that's just an easy solution. So to get going. I think if we're, growing as a city and in its composition, it's time that we need to grow up mentally. So these are things that if we have more people coming in downtown, in Crown Colony, all these new units, it's time to actually step up. So,
As to the 4 concrete things that I'm doing, I'm not there yet, but I will come back and discuss some of the detail, and I will be as transparent as I can. The information I have now is what I've gleaned from talking to people and the experts, and the people that do the job, as well as learning from a little bit of this for the last several years. Because I'm familiar with the issues, but I really need to dive deeply into it. The residential parking thing, I mean, that's something I've dealt with as well, just as a resident here too. Something I go to be concerned with. And I do think it's time to certainly take a good hard look at that. I don't know all the facts associated with that, but it seems the timing is good to do something like that.
I mean, this could be a self-sustaining department, right? You got a
Yeah,
parking
yes.
offsets already coming through. We're going to lose some
Yes,
spots.
parking certificates, somebody in the office mentioned that to me, I considered that. Because, you get the kids home from college, you get kids coming back for Thanksgiving dinner, you want them to come back, and we don't want to give them a ticket to stay overnight on Thursday night, Thanksgiving evening. So maybe we could look as part of the solution, look at, doing online tickets through the city's website. Quite easily, we can print up, it looks like we need more you pass in the end. So I think there's a lot of things like that we can look at. I think Council Cole, though, that maybe the starting point is to communicate this so people have a full understanding of what the current law is. And the fact that we're going to be looking at it in more detail and maybe expanded enforcement of it, as opposed to selective enforcement right now. So, I share all those concerns, I just don't have that. I haven't got the final solution. If we're going back to the prosecuting engineer and say, hey, we identified a problem, let's need to step in there and examine that problem in detail, document that problem, quantify it, and then see if we can come up with some solution.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm just saying is that this is a significant investment, as we're so calling it.
Yes.
And I want to see that we're getting an adequate return for the money that we're putting in.
Well, you just want clarification, it's not a $2.6 million increase in the budget, we're taking the budget away from the DPW, traffic, parking, fire, and lighting as well, so we're combining, but there is an increase in that overall budget.
Optically, it's a net increase.
Yes, I agree with that.
Thank you.
That's good.
Councilor Finn and Joe, just so you know, we get adjourn this meeting at 7:30, open up the city council meeting, and then go into the finance committee. So not to cut you short, but let's just proceed.
Does anyone else want to?
Well, we can bring it back.
Yeah, I'll yield for the moment.
Okay. Okay. Councilor Vaughn?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Some of the biggest complaints I get out there is obviously traffic, parking, and taxes. Those are the 3 main big ones that I get as an at-large counselor. I have to applaud the administration and the Mayor Koch for moving forward with this department. This needs to be addressed. Whether you agree, disagree, which way you want to look at it, it has to be addressed. Because we're going into a different phase, and the city is just growing at alarming rates. Talk about you know, all these different, and Mr. Walker touched on it a little bit, is the more we build, the more vehicles are on the road. I mean, you don't have to be a traffic engineer or, you know, learn all these economical numbers to understand that more vehicles on the road, more traffic. So I look for other solutions to mediate or mitigate the traffic situation up there. And I look at bike infrastructure. I think that's a great new wave for other cities that have already done it. There's some of those, the Cambridge, all those other ones that have did these type of centers, did these type of downtown developments, had some bike infrastructure around the city, and encourage people, get rid of your car, get on a bicycle, ride around. It could take away a lot from the downtown new people coming in and say, listen, I live by the T station, I'm not going to buy a new vehicle, I'm not going to take the vehicle from mom and dad, or whatever the situation may be, and get on a bicycle. So my personal opinion is, how do we look forward with the bike infrastructure? Is that in the capital improvement plan? And how do we do something very similar to Walton T Station, where they have these bike racks all set up, and some of these people just get on their bicycle, ride it, they fold it up. It's unbelievable. They fold it up, they put it in there, and they do so on. Or sometimes they actually fold it up, put it on, and take it on the T with them, and they drive it on the T. And it's like, wow, that's beautiful. But where are we? Is that in the capital improvement plan, Mr. Walker?
Yes, sir. Through you, Mr. Chairman, Councilor, yes, as part of the study we expect to get going on as part of the capital plan. That includes pedestrian safety, it includes parking, it includes traffic, and it does include bicycle infrastructure and bicycle access. Every road that we design now outside of the capital plan, it includes a review of potential bicycle infrastructure. The downtown area, the Adams Street transportation improvements will include bicycle infrastructure. Adams Street has bicycle infrastructure, just recently completed that road. So a few other places that have been addressed, and it's going to continue to be addressed. It's not going to happen overnight, but absolutely is part of that roadmap that we're going to set to make a lot of these improvements. The bicycle infrastructure is definitely one to be part of.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. You know, just to elaborate, Mike, I have to applaud you by taking on criticism, because you just said it right here. So let's come back in here, let's assess it, let's see what we did and what we can tweak and what we can do differently. I like that open-mindedness. You're the right person for this job, because if you can't handle the criticism in the traffic department, you know, you're not going to be able to handle this, because this isn't a lot of complaints. I have to applaud Mr. Palmucci across the way here. There's a lot of complaints with this. And you're looking to take this on, head on, and work with us. And that's really important, to be able to work with the council as well as getting on the same page. You know, obviously the Hancock lot, you know, is there any other modifications besides that Hancock lot? Maybe this goes to Mr. Walker. Is there anything else around this area that we're looking to put in type of, I would call it multi-level parking? Is there anything in the capital improvement plan?
That would actually be the urban development plan.
Okay.
The next step, as you know, before this council, the urban redevelopment plan is going to be a parking facility as part of the redevelopment of the Hancock lot. Following that, the redevelopment of the Ross Garage area and that entire area from the tracks, inclusive of the Ross Garage area as a development pad, that obviously is going to include some sort of parking structure. And as we continue to go on, yes, I mean, there will be multiple parking structures throughout the downtown.
Anything out of the URDP, anything out of that district, anything you're looking to, hey, listen, let's put this over here, this is right outside the district, but this is going to help mediate that. Anything looking at that?
I guess anything's possible, Council. It's not something at this point. I think right now we're focused on the immediate confines of the UID. Being within the UIDP is supported by this council. Most recently, in the last couple of months, we've added the Quincy Center T Station, which, without question, is going to have a new parking structure at some point, hopefully soon.
I bring these all up, Mr. Walker and Mr. Coffey, is because we have to be proactively on this. We can't be like, oh, we made a mistake here. We didn't develop this, we didn't put this parking in here, now we're stuck, we've already built this. There's so many moving parts going on with this, and traffic and parking are so integral parts of this whole thing. And I really like the fact that you have the lighting and the LED lights is huge. And, you know, this kind of goes into through the neighborhoods with the, you know, going, you know, across, you know, all that stuff that's happening. This is all public safety. It's all related to public safety. We need to address it. So I'm on board with the entire budget here. And if we assess it, we come back next year and there's surpluses in there, and then we can get into dissecting it and looking at it differently. But I'm going to be in full support for this new TPAL, this new traffic parking alarm and lighting system. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman.
I'm actually going to recess this right now. We're at about 7:29, so council use. We'll give it a minute or so, and everybody take a breath. We'll open up the council meeting, and then we'll go back into finance. So we're going to recess.
After that, we'll get them out of your head. What are we going to do? We're going to make the warning train? We're going to do it again. We'll do it up here. We'll move them up there.
Just had to double this. Pay it over 2 years.
The new bridge. Nice. This is more discussion on that.
Yeah. Not me. I'll let delegate.
That's all right. I can Quincy City Council meeting. This is a special meeting of Quincy City Council, Wednesday, June 8th, here in the Great Hall. If everyone would stand for a moment of silence for our men and women serving here abroad. And please join me in face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Madam Clerk, if you would read the open meeting law.
Section 20E. Pursuant to the open meeting law, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting
or may transmit the meeting through an email. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings or submissions are being made whether perceived or unperceived by those present and are deemed knowledgeable and permissible.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Can you call the roll?
Councilor King.
Present.
Councilor Crowe.
Present.
Councilor DeBon.
Present.
Councilor Finn.
Present.
Councilor Harris. Councilor LaFarge. Councilor Liang.
Present.
Councilor Calhoun.
President.
President Hughes.
Present.
Madam Mayor, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. At this time, we will recess the regular meeting and reconvene as the Finance Committee. Thank you.
We're back and we're live. So this point, we call Mr. Coffey back to the podium. Yes, you're all set. Correct? Okay, so we'll go into council thing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Mr. Coffey had mentioned it, but I would definitely like to start by moving officials. Fire detail, 28,257. I suppose that have that be cut, 5,197. Moving to the auditor, and then auditor can explain the rationale.
Yes, the rationale is when I was going through this budget with Mr. Coffey, we came across the line item for fire detail. That particular pay item does not get paid out of the general fund. We have a separate fund set up, so that money is not needed in the general fund. It does not prohibit anybody from getting paid for fire details. It's just in a separate segregated fund. You're welcome.
Motion on the floor to cut code number 510197, fire detail, it's $20,857, right?
Correct, Mr. Chairman. We call the roll.
Any discussion? Okay. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Councilor King.
Yes.
Councilor DeBon.
No.
Councilor Finn.
Yes.
Councilor Harris. Councilor Hughes.
Yes.
Councilor LaFarge.
Yes.
Councilor Liang.
Yes.
Councilor Calhoun.
Yes.
Chairman Crowe.
Yes.
7 passes.
7 passes. Council Finn, thank you.
Yeah, if I could, and again, Mr. Coffey is referenced here, but could we please have Ms. Murphy, the Director of Human Resources, come forward, please? Thank you. Ms. Murphy, one question in terms of what are the various units that we have in the bargaining units that are contained, that are going into the midst of this particular consolidation, whatever?
The two units of public safety is what the fire alarm division is referred to, and 1139.
And there's no others? I mean, what about the other electricians that are not?
No, the other electrician, one other electrician that's not in fire alarm is 1139. So I don't believe.
There's an electrician who's back, he's an electrician.
I'm sorry, yes, there was one electrician 1139 and 3 in the
So we're
public
dealing
safety
with
system.
the public safety. It's my understanding, have you reached an agreement with 1139?
No, other than, and just to correct Mr. Kavanaugh, it's the traffic supervisors and the public buildings that have reached resolution.
No, not in terms of the contract, in terms of impact, bargaining. Did you have a meeting today with representative of 1139?
Definitely, yes.
And what was essentially the?
Well, essentially, there's no change in the job functions, and this is for the most part, this is a restructuring of administrative functions, and it's not, there's no change in job descriptions, no change in functions.
There's no change in promotions. Did you say?
We're looking at everything, and that's, again, the discussions that we have with unions, all unions. I mean, right now, we're in negotiations, so
I
would feel very uncomfortable discussing anything regarding what is going to affect our negotiations.
Well, did you place something in writing to the representative of 1139?
The email that I sent about a week or two ago was that there is no change in job functions or responsibilities.
So you haven't reached specifically an agreement of 1139?
Correct.
You have not.
We're still in negotiations with all unions, other than those two, with all unions.
Related, not to their contracts that I'm talking about, but I'm speaking about the impact specifically of this consolidation on the members of their local.
I guess what I'm saying is that it would all be one. We have open or expired contracts with the remaining units that have not signed agreements. So everything.
So you have,
is on the table for the most part.
there is any communication to the effect that there's only a change in management
That is
that memorializes an agreement that you reached with Representative 1139. You're saying that's not true.
Correct. We have nothing at the moment.
Nothing.
We're
So
in negotiations
the
with.
bottom line is that this consolidation, that, as I understand it, seems to be moving ahead without there having been any type of impact bargaining process that's taken place.
We're again, all negotiations are ongoing, other than those two units themselves.
And you have no writing that's occurred today, basically, as a result of the meeting that you had today. There's nothing in writing related to that this is only going to impact this is only a change in management, nothing else.
That is what I put forward to 1139.
Do you have a date of that?
Sorry?
Is there a date related to it? When you put that in writing? You actually place that in writing?
I wouldn't have it off the top of my head, but there's obviously differences.
But you didn't do anything today?
Correct.
That's right.
That is correct.
Have you, in terms of the public safety, has it made any of the same indications to the members of the fire
Again,
alarm department that this is absolutely having no other impact other than management?
because this particular change, the switch over to TCAL, this type of thing, has been discussed with fire alarm since 2013, there is in fact the current agreement reflects any changes to make this department happen.
And what are the specific provisions related to that?
It would be to work on street lighting, it would be to work on infrastructure, actually, these are a few of the items. Let me see. Installation, testing, and maintenance of interior fire alarm systems in cities, schools, and public buildings. Installation, testing, and maintenance of city-owned communication infrastructure. Installation, and maintenance of city-owned electric street lighting. Performing or assisting in performing maintenance of traffic signals and circuits. That was negotiated with the last contract.
But it was not in terms of change of management or supervision or any of that was not.
There's no, they still report to the traffic engineer and the department head. So you would specifically identify, Councilor Finn as the department head or Councilor Kane as the department head, as the department head.
And so what you're saying that to change departments has no impact?
I would say that. Also, this has been done several times over the years. So it's been an independent function, it's been an independent department, and it's not been an independent department probably since 1990. What, 3 or 4 times it's been in that flux of under DPW.
With all due respect, again, I've been here for a long time in these so-called consolidations and different things, and I've never seen anything move this stealthily and as quickly as this particular one has, to be quite honest with you. But you're saying that there isn't anything in writing per se.
I'm saying there's nothing.
So, for example, let me just hypothetically speaking, in 1139, does this change result in the fact that those members of 1139 who now work under this management are now, would they be ineligible for promotion to higher positions back, say, within the department?
We're looking at anything like that.
You're looking
But I
at-
can't speak to that
You
directly.
can't speak to that directly, but you're here asking collectively. I don't want to sound disagreeable, but you're asking to have this particular change come back. And you're saying there's no impact.
I'm saying we don't know right now if there's an impact. We're looking at all of the possibilities. And with
Wouldn't it make
negotiations
sense?
being open,
Wouldn't it make sense to have some of this take place prior to implementing what you're trying to do here, in the sense of understanding what that impact is? The minute we vote here tonight, this is essentially now a part of an ordinance for all intents and purposes. We've created a new department here. And you're asking, and I came to this evening under the impression that we've reached some understanding that that doesn't impact, is not going to affect or impact that very issue that I raised.
I have suggested that we're looking at everything. I'm sorry, what was your first piece of this question?
No, again, in terms of our members of 1139 who transfer into this specific department, now no longer able to be eligible for other promotions, for example, to foreman or different things occurring within that under the Department of Public Works.
As things stand right now, we do not know that. We're looking at that.
All
We're
right.
looking at everything. I'm sorry, I forgot the other point that you had raised that I was trying to respond to. We'll come to it, I'm sure.
Well,
Oh, as far as the timing, it's perfect time. It's the best time to do it. We have open contracts, and we're restructuring, administratively restructuring, and we're looking at everything. I mean, again, everything's on the table.
yeah,
That's what we-
except with all due respect, from your perspective, it might be a perfect time, but if I'm one of those 1139 members who now is suddenly working under a different, now created through ordinance, a different structure, and I may have actually limited my own ability to move up within the city and work and improve my situation or things, I might not find it all that great.
Well,
If
we
I
don't
did
know.
not know. Well, yeah, but I mean, well, I don't know.
We don't know how he's going to look at.
Yeah,
That's what we're doing.
That's the problem I'm having supporting this, is that none of us know how it looks. No, I mean, nobody knows how it's going to look. That, yeah, we're going to fix those double poles. We're finally going to get to that. When you're not increasing personnel at all. In fact, there's one person who's out injured, and you have two people working. And now, oh, by the way, you're also going to have to work on street lighting and these different things. When we know that, again, it's difficult to keep up with what they presently have in relation to the fire alarm.
There's no change in the job functions or responsibilities.
Excuse me?
There's no change in job functions or responsibilities.
There's no, you just mentioned to me, you said there's no change in job
Essential
things,
functions.
functions.
Responsibilities.
And yet what you're saying is that you negotiated earlier where you are switching in terms of the lights, et cetera, that was part of an earlier contract negotiation. You said that's
That's what
the way it
triggered
is.
the units 1139. It was not changing the job functions or responsibilities. The public safety was negotiated just so that this would be done.
That's
Specifically.
right. But the bottom line is that there's no new resources to go out and take care of those poles or do any of those things that are normally associated with that. And plus, my understanding is it makes us, again, probably one of the few fire alarm maintenance divisions at all that's not under the jurisdiction of the fire department. You know,
I have
the
to
only
use that
one.
to- I don't know that.
Yeah.
Do you know anything about
No, nobody knows. I guess not. But if this body, and again, I have no offense, the mayor's doing his job. My concern is how well are we doing our job? That we allow this to go on and on and on, to come up and lay out this, utopic vision of how great things are going to be, which simply is a change of management that basically is a single job, and it's nothing against that manager. It's not about personalities. It's about principles. And you're here and you're saying, well, I don't know what impact that's going to have on 1139. This is the perfect time to be figuring it out. But it's not a perfect time from my perspective to be figuring it out, because if I vote and agree to this tonight, this is set pretty much in stone. So what leverage do they have, those people?
We're in negotiations with these unions. This
Yeah.
is where you can.
I think we're going in circles at this particular point in time. Excuse me?
The mayor's representatives, that's something that he wanted to weigh in on.
I would just add, Council, through you, Mr. Chairman, just to add to what Ms. Murphy had said, if there is impact bargaining required, impact bargaining will take place. This is a chicken and the egg sort of thing. We're creating a department. The department's created. If legal counsel for 1139 believes they're at that point entitled to impact bargaining, they can then make that case to the city and the city's legal team and the human resources department, and we'll address that, as we have in the past, as we will always do. It's not a lock, this vote tonight does not lock in or eliminate the possibility of anyone who feels they've been deprived somehow of impact bargaining of getting that chance. Of course they've been entitled to impact bargaining if that happens to be the case. We at this point don't believe so, but that's not to say it's not going to happen.
Is Mr. Walker finished?
Yes.
Again, you may want to view it as a chicken or an egg. I view it more as a fait accompli. And I think that in reality, that if this were being done appropriately, we would not be doing this at budget time. All of my colleagues around the table here, and again, I can count votes as well as anybody, but all of them around the table have indicated certain concerns or issues that they have. The appropriate way to have that discussion would be if they came before us with an order that was proposing this in a timely fashion prior to a budget process that allowed them to do the impact bargaining, that would allow them to speak to the various bargaining units that are affected or impacted. Because tonight, you're being asked to cast a vote that basically sets this now as law, pretty much. This is the structure. And so the bottom line is that if there are these various impacts, they're saying to you, I don't know the answer to that. So that means potentially that an 1139 person who transferred out from Public Works into this is actually limiting his own capacity to move forward in the city, or to be eligible for certain positions if they own it. Or that could well be.
It doesn't mean that's the case, but we're again.
No, but that I can assure you, I think there's some understanding that out there that there's a discrepancy certainly that we'll have to clear up offline, because it's my understanding that the leadership of 1139 believes there is an agreement to that effect. There's going to be no impact beyond management. And so it doesn't make any sense for me to propose a cut tonight, Councilor, because I'm pretty certain where the vote goes. And again, I don't want to personalize this, because this is not a personal issue. But this is not the way to proceed to achieve those objectives that you're concerned about. This particular proposal offers no new boots on the ground, no new resources, no more than we have presently currently. It's simply a shift and a change in management that creates a new position, a fairly high-paid position. And at a time when we should be thinking about trying to move to truly consolidated resources, to do things with greater efficiency, and to merge certain functions together more closely. And instead, what we've done is we've reached out, taken from here and there, and created this whole new single department. Again, I will not vote in favor of this. I think I may, as time goes on, follow this up with a few resolutions specifically to our oversight committee as to how we move forward in this particular fashion to get to this particular point. But I will not support this particular budget this evening. It's, in my opinion, no way to do business from a legislative perspective. We continue to do this, and what we do is we undermine the effectiveness of this body to be able to affect the very change that we're so concerned about and represent our constituents for. And again, I hope all of you hold to this promise to hold everyone to account for that. So with that, I'll let it go. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Finn. Council Leanne.
Thank you, Margaret. So I do want to reiterate, and I'm sure we can all agree that the question here is not the problem of traffic and parking in the city that causes congestion and pedestrian safety issues, bike safety issues. And we just had that road rage issue here in Quincy the other day, and I do not believe that that is going to be the last that we see of that. So that being said, Councilor Palmucci said it very well. I think the trepidation with this department is, all the promises that are going to be made and how that translates into action. I'm excited to hear that there's going to be dedicated attention to these issues, and doing so will make these issues a priority. You did talk about how you're going to come and talk to us and make sure that our issues are being heard and being addressed. You talked about the citywide traffic study. Again, these are all studies and conversations and things that we would hope to implement. But in creating this department, there are some reassurances on your end that these things will actually, again, translate into some real action. So can you elaborate a little bit more and at least try to offer some more detail on, okay, you are going to do a traffic study, you are going to come and talk to us about, but how does that translate into action? When is this traffic study going to be done? When are you going to engage us, and when is that follow-up going to be? Is it going to be once a month? You said every 6 months to make a presentation, but to be able to offer a little bit more detail as to what we can see and expect to happen, I think would be helpful to us to help all those concerns we have, because again, right now it's on top.
Well, as far as the citywide traffic flow study, that's depending upon the CIP. We get CIP funding, approval over the next, several weeks. I think the next steps is with the traffic engineer and the mayor and mayor's representatives and others. We reach out to some of the traffic engineering firms and discuss potential traffic flow studies. Maybe do a bid of some sort, I'm guessing, and follow whatever timeline would be involved in that. So I'm thinking maybe the fall, is when a citywide traffic study will begin. Now, I'm not sure if that's a good time as well, how important seasonality is there. So that's something we have to look at as well. But I'm thinking in the fall for a traffic study. The CIP, the large intersection rehabs of 4 large intersections, I think maybe 5 or 6 smaller ones. I think we would also go to bid in the fall for that as well, and hopefully start some of that fairly quickly. As far as the meetings with the council, as I stated earlier, my intention is to call and meet with every one of you individually, as soon as we gain approval, find out what your specific issues are. I'll document those and we can track those. And I can do follow-up meetings with you individually or as a group. I'm fine, as I said, I keep lists, I keep spreadsheets of them, I can refer to that, and I'll give you an update. I'm going to go up to bat and try to hit the ball. I'm going to strike out every once in a while, but we'll do the best we can. And I think I owe it to you when we fail and say, hey, we don't have a solution. I have to tell you that as well. And if it comes back to we need more resources, we don't have enough people or money to do that, I'll be very clear on that as well. But I think there are some things that we can start on. Ticket enforcement, I think is something, and I know I've discussed that with the operations manager. We plan to jump right on that. So there's some things that we can do just in change of our normal day-to-day operation that we can do as well.
Thank you. I think that would be helpful to integrate what Council King said to provide us with a little bit more idea of what this return on the investment is going to be. Because again, on paper it sounds great. Yes, we're going to address 100 issues, but we don't have a firm understanding of how you plan on implementing that and how you plan on investing in real action items. We're sort of doing the shot in the dark. So,
but and as far as a citywide traffic flow study and maybe rehab of intersections, if we can create 3 more Squantum Street and Hancock Street intersections, I think that's a huge victory. If we could turn Center Street, Bergen Parkway into a West Squantum Street and Hancock, if we could ever fix C Street in the Southern Artery, those are huge, huge victories. I'm not saying we can do that, but I think we've got to look at that. And I don't know how you get out of house half the time. When you have to down C Street. In the DPW, we take a right coming out of there. We go around up Quincy Shore Drive and come up that way sometimes. So there's some, I don't want to say low-hanging fruit, but there's some targets there for improvement. I'm not a traffic engineer, I can't give you that solution, but I think those are some big things we have to look at quickly.
And I would urge you to look at each neighborhood, not just the entry points and entry and exit points, but look into the neighborhoods as well, because there's a lot of congestion and parking issues there too.
In the north end?
I'm just saying, everyone, there are pockets of neighborhoods, everyone in the city.
Well, I live in the north end as well, so I won't neglect the north end.
And, you know, I will tell you that I will be watching this very, very closely and making sure that all of, you know, these ideas that you have will turn into action, you know, because I think they need to be addressed and they need to be addressed yesterday. You know, there is provisional support that I can offer for this, but I really just make sure to put a little bit of pressure on you in this department and that's what you guys to translate this into action.
Well, that's okay, I expect that.
Councilor, speaking of Ward 1, it's a perfect transition. Councilor Forrest.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and my apologies, I'm multitasking at the planning board meeting just downstairs. So if I'm repeating something, sorry for stepping out. First, I just want to leave this with, there's certain city employees that really rise to the occasion, go above and beyond, and you're one of those whose responsiveness to us has always been top-notch. So I am very supportive of your leadership for taking this on. Nicholas Councilor Kane said, earlier, what a mess you're walking into, and you're willing to do that for this administration. So that's not lost on me, and I appreciate that because we need someone who's a strong leadership and work across the departments to get this work done. One of my biggest frustrations, of course, when we recodified the zoning back in 2010, was the first time it had been recodified since the 60s. We're talking about a city that's trying to modernize functioning antiquated policies, and it's time for us to modernize that. We left the traffic and parking out of the zoning, knowing what a mess it was. It was its own animal. We had to get that zoning recodification done. It's time to take this holistic look from this issue and hit it hard. And I think this is a real opportunity that the administration's trying to start there. The technology in that department, I think when we started this discussion, when it first came up, I talked about going to the traffic engineer's office and thinking it's a historic artifact, which still no, that's the spare parts for the intersection of Center and Bergen. So, we really have a lot of challenges with the integrated technology. That traffic signalization has grown so much, but going after getting those funds and getting those intersections so that they are talking to each other and more modern technology like the West One that's such a success. I think that traffic and parking is a nightmare. When the traffic and signage requests come in, aside from handicap parking, I feel like they go on a carousel, right? So Councilor Palmucci talks about constituents contact us, here's what we're looking, we maybe need a stop sign here, this is the signage idea that we have, or, the disaster that was the Sunset Ave, and, 3 states, and it's just on the carousel, it's not getting done and nobody's happy with it. We need to get products to the finish line, and I feel strongly that you're the person who's going to get that done for us. For me, you talked about outreach and public engagement. I think that that's very important is to get the neighbors engaged because I hear it constantly from people, and it's become quite the half the other report, right? So I don't want, so-and-so doesn't want the neighbor parking in front of their house, and instead of using their driveway, they're going to park in front of their house. It's frustrating. So I think that if we can, whether we take some neighborhoods as a pilot, start it out, almost like the warning ticket, hey, during a snowstorm, right? Here's what's coming, we're making these changes, because I think you need to help transition this process. It's really take a lot of effort. So I'd like to see something along those lines. The other big frustration we talked about was winter parking. Let's designate some snow lots in the city. What are these creative ideas that gets us out of this antique policy to modernize and to meet the needs of our residents? So I am very supportive. I think that this has been our biggest frustration, our biggest complaint, is not being able to get projects across the finish line that we think to be simple requests. I think this department has substantially been understaffed. A few years ago, when things were tough, traffic department really took a hit on staffing, so I'd like to see us able to build that up. So I'm engaging a traffic consultant to bring this on from the bird's eye view for everything. For example, often places we feel our snow school drop off and pick up. So I have a meeting next week with traffic engineer, police officer, parents, teachers. It's not Harbor School. Well, this is the way it's been for 100 years. It doesn't mean that's the way it needs to be today. We can fix these things. We can look at these problems and tackle it. So, we have started a pilot solution, but I have other schools who are looking for solutions. We just haven't had the resources to give them. And I really think it's important that we're taking this holistic look and modernizing our policy. So I look forward to working with you on it. I think coming back and see where we are as a check-in is great. I think neighborhood outreach would be very important by the administration because we're hearing it, but let's vote every single stop sign through the city council out. I'm in support of some sort of traffic commission. In the summer you can't change any signs because we're not here. I mean, I really just think there's a lot of opportunity here of putting this all together in these pieces of your department. So I guess that's more of my thoughts and comments. I do need to go back to the planning board. I would like my vote to be read in support. It's not here for that.
Pleasure to do so, Council.
Thank you.
Thank you for multitasking. Councilor Harris?
Being last thing, we still love you. Thank you very much. We was in love in January, but that being said, I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Okay, motion on the floor to approve traffic, parking, and lighting. Any discussion on the motion? Council Calhoun?
Thank you. Just to touch on something that Councilor LaFleur said, I think the city council should definitely get out of the business of stop signs and street signs. I think that would, people call me all the time and say, oh, I get a stop sign here, and I say, well, I'm not in charge of stop signs. We vote on it, but I'm not going to support something that a traffic engineer doesn't say is needed. And I know councils in the past, Ward 4 councils in the past have their own policies on it, but it should be a more professional approach than what we can provide here. One of the things that I was a little concerned about when Ms. Murphy was testifying, she indicated that there's no change in job functions. When you first presented to us, I believe what the mayor's presentation, from what I understand, was that was one of the main points why the TPAL made sense, why these random parts were being put in the same bin. It's kind of like the potpourri category of jeopardy. Things that don't really make sense elsewhere, you put them all in one bin. And the argument that was, again, the case that was made to us was that all of these things actually fit together because they could, when one piece was busy, whether it's a wire or something like that, more folks could go there and they could be moved about. So I guess, I'm beginning to be inclined to support this, and then now I'm told the job functions aren't going to change. Everyone's just going to keep doing the same job. We're just giving them a new boss. That to me doesn't seem like
it does sound contradictory. I don't think it is. I think in discussions I've had with the mayor and my vision is I can see out 3, 4, 5 years we will have a group of electricians. And those electricians will do streetlight work, signal work, fire alarm work, school maintenance type activity, maybe even IT telecommunications work. I just don't think that's going to happen, in a year or maybe even 2 years. I'm spitballing on that. I don't know that for sure, but I don't see it. I don't see it because there is a substantial amount of work in the fire alarm area for the 2 folks that are working on the fire alarm, and the substantial amount of work on the traffic and parking just to keep the signals working and getting some of the street lights operational. So, directionally, are we going to go and gain those, those efficiencies and that effectiveness by combining them? Yes, I think we are. I think we'd be remiss if we didn't. And I think that's why the mayor several years ago pursued this agreement with the Fire Alarm Association that, hey, over time we're going to move in this direction. We're going to need your support. That was bargained for, and they came up with an agreement to allow us to do that. And this next step as well as form the department. As Mr. Walker indicated, there's other bargaining impact issues, and those will be addressed. We certainly do see one unit down the road. I just don't think it's not really right now. Just to train people we took the fire alarm people and said, you're now focused on traffic signals, we'd have to hire some people to do a fire alarm work. So directionally, we're going that direction, but I don't think we're going to see that for a couple of years.
So there's no benefit to putting
Well, no, I think there is. I mean, there's probably training they can share. There's some other things they can share. There's certainly benefits, and we certainly want to go in that direction.
One of the other pieces that we were told is that we're moving towards taking over the the contract, not the contract, we've taken over the responsibility of repairing streetlights. That's currently contracted out, it's in the DPW budget, but the DPW has no oversight or anything to do with that particular contract. It's run through the mayor's office of constituent services. But we're heading towards LED conversion, in which we'd be looking to bring that contract in-house, right? And isn't that the
Well,
goal?
we actually own the streetlights right
Right.
now. So that contract is in-house, we own the streetlights in-house. We own, I think, 368 poles as well. We have a bid on the street with responses in from 3 vendors to replace
The
all of
LED
those
version.
bulbs with LEDs. And there's some substantial savings associated with that will give a very attractive cost-benefit payback on that. As part of that contract, in the negotiations, we have a 10-year product warranty, and we have a 10-year labor warranty on those lights. So if there's a failure of the equipment on one of those lights, they send people in on their dime and they repair it. If there is a knockdown or a light is damaged because of a storm or a traffic accident, that's on us. And initially, if that happened today, we have an O&M contract with an outside vendor that will do that for a couple of reasons. We don't have the personnel trained to do that yet. We have one electrician, and we don't have the equipment that allows us to stand the pole up and lift the arm for a light. I think I don't know if that made the cut for the CIP program.
Oh, the capital improvement plan, thank goodness, thank goodness.
But that is the plan that, eventually we will do all of our own maintenance on all of the traffic signals, all of those lights, and we'll bring that in-house.
So that LED contract is out, and we're getting bids now, it's been out. I thought the goal of that was to bring all that work in-house with in-house folks, because the LED maintenance compared to the current maintenance is so minimal that we could support it and we'd be saving the taxpayers money. I believe that was a presentation we received when we were asked to expend the princely sum of $1 to buy all of the equipment. So, I mean, I'm just concerned about the no change in job functions, because I was with you, you really had me there.
No, there will be a change in job functions down the road. There definitely will be. That's been agreed to. It's a question of timing. We're certainly not ready for that right now. Would we be ready for that next year? I don't know. My guess is probably not, but maybe, there may be changes next year, but I don't see that, right now.
But the LED, the streetlight repair operation would theoretically be under TPAL, right?
Yes.
Okay. So when will we be coming on board with personnel in order to service what's currently out there? And again, I get that we have a contract, but at some point in the near future, the contract's going to expire and we're going to take it over with our own personnel.
Well, I think we have to move forward with the bid, see which one we select, what the terms are there. There is a 10-year product warranty on all bids. There's a 10-year labor warranty on all bids. It's not a significant piece of their bid because you don't really have a lot of problems with the LED lights. They go for 10 years, they have many more years than this, so they're not stepping to the plate with a lot of money to do this labor warranty. We own it when there's a storm or when there's a knockdown, there's a traffic accident. Or if, a forester drops a branch on it, breaks the bulb, we own that, and we have to repair that. If that happened today, if the lights were installed today, we would hire Coviello or Daigle to go out there and replace their poles. For 2 reasons. Number one, they have the equipment necessary that the CIP program will give us, and they have the resources. So, what I'd like to do is say we will need 2 people to do streetlight maintenance, but I don't know that. One may be sufficient. It's something we have to look at, we have to train.
And this is why I raised it, because it would be an additional staff, it wouldn't be changing a job function of an existing staff member, because we're not going to do that in the short term.
It would probably be an additional staffing, and we pay for it with some of the savings in the LLP as well. So I don't think it would be a budget, jump, but that's something we'll look at.
Perhaps for you, Mr. Chairman, to Mr. Walker, what's the timeline on that bid to take the LED some in-house repairs and whatnot.
Well, I think first and foremost, the package to purchase and have the LED lights installed has to be appropriated by this body. When we get to that point, we'll be in front of you, my senses, in the fall with request to do the install, and we'll take it from there. That's going to be a long process just to do the install. My sense is that's 6 months to a year to get everything installed the way it should be. So now we're out to 2018 before we're fully installed. Let's say we have this approved fall of 2000.
I'll accept your math.
Okay, thank you. You gave me a look like you weren't accepting my math. So we're out to 2018 before we're really in the point of assessing where we are with the ops and maintenance of it and how the program is going. And if I could just add a little bit onto what Mr. Coffey had said relative to the job functions. There is no change in job duties at this point. What does change is the capability of people in these departments, and specifically the fire alarm department, to begin to do some of this work. Right now, very talented electricians in that department, they have one function, and that's on the fire alarm. What's going to happen as this department evolves is together they'll be training with the folks that are currently in the DPW and the electricians on that end. We'll be working with the folks that are currently on the fire alarm end to interchange those capabilities and talents so we do get to a point in a year, 2 years, maybe it's 3. We don't know yet, but it absolutely is part of the vision of this department to have those folks that are currently employed in one department transferred into the seamless department and absolutely have them have the ability to do some of these other functions. In a pinch next year, perhaps there is a scenario in which the folks that are doing the streetlight repairs aren't available. They're out doing a job, and it's an emergency. Well, now we have a department that, in a pinch, perhaps they're trained to a level within 6 months to a year, but they can go out and take care of a burning Parkway situation immediately on a case-by-case basis. What I think Mike is trying to say is that we won't be at full capacity to do everything we want to do with this department right from go. It's going to take a little bit of time, and I think that's where we're looking toward the future.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir. Thank you. Wrapping up, Mike, just to touch upon something that Councilor Finney said, which is really good point. It's something we're going to too, but you know, this would be a much easier call for me to support this department if you were adding an additional traffic engineer or you were adding an additional sign maker or whatever. But the only things that are being added, and this goes to what Councilor Kane was talking about the net add here, is a commissioner and an administrative assistant. So it's not like we're getting more boots on the ground. So you're going to have the same exact resources available to you that you currently have available that currently aren't making the grade, just about everyone's assessment. That's concerning to me, because it would be an easier sell than if you say, well, listen, we're doubling every position. You say, okay, clearly we're throwing bodies at the problem. That's got to be, right? I mean, so my fear is that I have this expectation, right? And first of all, let me tell you, I'm also thinking back of when we moved traffic into the DPW with the understanding that it was going to make traffic function better, that the performance coming out of that department was going to be better because it was going to ease the administrative burden. And then we lo and behold, messed it up by doing that. I hope you don't mess too much with the parking department. That department, to me, from my perspective as a ward councilor, any interactions I've had with them and the folks in that department, they've done a terrific job. And I would hate to see, 3 years from now, we're creating another department because the parking department's a mess because we moved it again. It's functioning well. I hope that you take a soft approach to that because it's working. But, the heavy hand needs to go into the traffic section of this department. So, I think Mr. Sousa does a good job. I think the folks who work under him do a good job. But I have this expectation that we approve this new department. If we approve this new department, that you'll deliver results, that things will get better in the short term, and that there'll be an immediate positive impact on the quality of life issues that have been raised here, as traffic has. Because I think you know, as we've all been saying, the traffic department's broken, and it's my expectation that you'll fix it. So my biggest concern at this point is that we're not giving you the resources, that they're not in this budget to be able to do that. And I know you probably need some time, as you had said earlier, to address staff and to figure out if it's just the vacancies, if it's just the people out, or if you're perhaps understaffed. But yeah, it's probably more for the mayor, speaking as Walker. But you know, this is something that let's not wait till next May to figure out if it's a staffing issue. If it becomes a staffing issue, and he knows this in 6 months, let's before we set the tax rate or what have you, let's talk about using, rather than the spending spree that we do every year with free cash, we use that to fund the position. I would certainly support that. If Mr. Coffey says to you guys, his reports to the mayor that, yeah, we need more bodies, we need more professionals to do the job. I'll tell you from my perspective, I would unquestionably support that if he comes up there and makes that case, that he needs more bodies to fix this. Because traffic in the city has to be improved. It's just horrendous. Pedestrian safety, traffic flow, the overdevelopment in neighborhoods, especially in West Quincy. You have the list. You'll be looking for results, and I don't want to be in a position where I'm holding you to an unreasonable expectation because you have the same ingredients, that the last chef had. The last chef didn't make a great meal. We're expecting you to make something better. So I know you're up for the task. You said you are, and I have confidence in you. But I guess that's my request to you is next year. I think I'll still be here. I think a 2-year term, right? So next year I'll be here. The budget will be holding you accountable should this pass tonight. And I really, I hope not to hear, well, I get in there and, I didn't have much to work with in terms of staffing. So I did the best I could. I think we're all expecting a lot from you. Perhaps it's, to pull a rabbit out of the hat, but, that's why you're funded with the big bucks here. You're funded, so. That's my expectation. I'm willing to be a partner in any way that I can to help this department be successful. If you need inter-year funding, if you need an ordinance to create a new position to staff up that department. To me, that's one of the biggest problems in the city right now. It really is. It's a quality of life issue. And in some cases, as it relates to pedestrian safety, it's a life and death issue. So I'll support the budget. It's a close call for me. It's a bit of a struggle, but I'll support it. I wish you luck. I'll certainly be holding you accountable for making some positive improvements right out of the gate. So, thank you, Councilor Lowe. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Council Fenn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, on the motion. But Mr. Coffey, our current Quincy Municipal Code, 2.72100, defines chief hours and duties in the fire alarm system. And what's already codified within our city ordinance is that the chief of the fire department shall have full charge of the operation of the fire alarm signal system and shall assign to duty in connection therewith such members of the department as he may deem expedient. That's what's codified presently. Does our vote just simply negate that? Is that the point? Do we have, has anybody provided an amended ordinance to this effect?
I believe the code can be delegated, enforcement of the code can be delegated by the fire chief, but actually let the chief talk to that. Your permission.
Oh, please. Chief Barron.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's probably something that needs to be addressed. I can tell you that all of the codes, Massachusetts codes that relate to fire alarm systems, allow me to delegate that authority to the responsible party.
Does our current, we have that codified within our current ordinances today?
Say again,
Do we
please.
have that codified within our specific code?
No, that, I'm saying that probably would be,
Wouldn't that have been one of the better things to do, you know, as part of this process of moving forward in terms of, rather than through a budget process, perhaps to do this through this body, that's the legislative body that oversees these ordinances, that oversees this code, that has the power to do that? Wouldn't that have been a better strategy in terms of making such a significant change?
the council, that's a legislative question. It's not my area of expertise.
Okay. Thank you, Chief. I appreciate it. So essentially what we're doing is acting outside, as far as I can tell, what's currently codified within the city. But so what? So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Cockfield, did you have more that you wanted to?
Sorry?
Did you have more that you wanted to say?
No.
So, seeing no further discussion on the motion, I'll just kind of close up with this. I chuckled to myself listening to Council Palmucci about expectations. Unfortunately, I have high expectations because I know that my level of service hasn't been that great with the traffic department. And I think about what my wife tells me all the time, no expectations, no letdown. Hopefully she's not applying that to me, but that's remained to be seen. But there's issues, no question. And I hear that you want to be visible, you want to be communicative, you want to not remain an extension to us, but sort of an extension to us. And what I hear, the fundamental premise of your job really is, well, my job is board council, it's constituent services. And I feel like when people reach out to me with whatever issue is going on in their neighborhood and on their street, that's probably the biggest issue that they're dealing with in their life, respective to their neighborhood or their street. So my expectation, always to myself, is the level of accountability that I have, is to get back to people with an answer. When I reach out to the traffic engineer and it goes into a black hole, and now I'm on email chains upon email chains, and it's 6 months, we already had this discussion. It's just unacceptable. So, I mean, what I'm hearing from you is you're basically going to be essentially the ward counselor of the traffic department. And I'm assuming that your availability to us is this question.
My availability is 7 by 24, you call me anytime, day, night, weekend.
And I like that progress report, and you kind of shared with me that you wanted to sit down and have that conversation with the ward council, what are the issues, what are the hot spots, and most importantly, what can we do to solution those issues. And I like what you said, sometimes there's not a solution at that particular moment, but I'm not going to belabor the point that you have your hands full, no question. And I feel like your confidence level is pretty high that you can execute.
It is now. I hope it'll stay that way. And I do look forward to working with you, and addressing many of these issues.
Council Hughes has one more thing on the motion, but before I go to her, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask, because I know the Chief Keenan and Chris Walker are going to both join me at a Penn Hill traffic and parking meeting right after we recess for the summer. So provided this goes forward, and I will support it. I would assume that you'd be in that meeting as well, because we have issues out there that we want to provide solutions to.
Good.
So thank you, Council Hughes.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Councilor Kroll. Just a question actually through you to the mayor's representative. While I won't be voting with Councilor Finn on this, I am in favor of this department, so I won't be voting to pass this budget, but he does bring up a good and valid point regarding our ordinance, and is this something that the administration could address in the next session, or in the immediate future, to correct and give the fire chief the power to delegate that authority? Is that something that the administration is looking at?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chairman, Council President. Yes, absolutely. Whatever codification changes need to take place, we will certainly do those and bring those before the body. And to the extent rationale behind that. It was more so that it would be presumptive for us to do anything else. This is and I know there's disagreement with Council Finn on this, but we have taken the position over the course of the last several years that this budget, the budget process, is the policy-making document for the city. This creates the policy, this creates the department. And it would be presumptive for us to go about and doing any other technical changes that would need to be done prior to having this body's support for the restructuring to create this department. So the answer, the immediate answer is yes, absolutely. If there's a requirement for us to go in and change the code, we will certainly do that.
Is this something that the solicitor could take a look at
Absolutely.
this week?
Yep.
And report back to this body then?
Sure.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay.
Council Hughes, Council Finn on the motion.
Again, just in reference to what Mr. Walker is saying, and again, just addressing to my colleagues, I want you to understand exactly what he said, is that they understand that the primary policy making is the budget. A budget which we're given, Madam Clerk, how many days is it from the time it's presented? 45 days from the time it's presented to reach decisions about. When, again, this section of state laws talks about, again, section 4433A talks about that we vote on a budget of things that are within the code and again, that exist in terms of ordinances. And we have a body of ordinances. And the appropriate way to do this is by creating those and bringing those before us. And the thing is do you really want to be in a position where they can radically change significant things under a budget process? It doesn't allow you the time necessarily to even consider whether that particular combination of budget resources is really going to be that effective. And again, has anybody presented to you in this process a cost-benefit study of doing this? I haven't seen one. In fact, this budget doesn't even break down the various personnel who's in it at all. It's just numbers. And so if that's the way you want to make policy going forward, I want you to listen very carefully to what he said and ask yourselves, do you think that that's the best way? Because if it is, then clearly we're going to have far more finance committee meetings in a budget process if that's the way they're choosing to affect policy. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Council Finn. Any further discussion on the motion to move approval on the traffic parking and lighting? Madam Clerk, call the roll, please.
Council King.
Yes.
Council DeBona.
Yes.
Council Hughes.
Yes.
Council LaFors. Council Leeang.
Revision meeting pass.
Council Calhoun.
Yes.
Council Paul.
Yes. Thank you, Michael. Look
Thank
forward
you.
to working with you.
Thank you, Council.
Next item on the agenda is the fire department.
Chairman?
Yes, please.
Again, given this, these are all contingent upon dealing with this, I just simply move approval at this point.
There's a motion on the floor to move approval on the fire department, seconded by Council Hughes. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Council King.
Yes.
Council DeBona. Council Finn.
Yes.
Council Harris.
Yes.
Council Hughes.
Yes.
Council LaFors. Council Leeang.
Yes.
Council Calhoun.
Yes.
Chairman Paul.
Yes.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members of the city council.
Thank you to President-elect, President-elect, President of Local 792, who's joined us here as well. Next item on the agenda is Public Works.
Mr. Chairman? Yes. In the same vein, because this was contingent upon what's happening with this, I just simply move approval.
There's a motion on the floor to move approval on the motion. Council Calhoun.
Council Harris seconds the motion. Commissioner Raimondo, fortuitous here. When I was a new councilor, watched a far more senior councilor do some constituent work while we had department heads for their budget. So I'm not going to reach up to that, but what should the claim process through the DPW look like in a perfect world? And what does it currently look like?
Claims against the city?
Claims against the city, say for snow, damage to a fence from plowing that perhaps was just call it a city plow. A city plow from
Any
winter
claim,
2014.
thank you. Mr. Chairman, and members of the Finance Committee, thank you for the invitation to be here this evening. Any claim against the city would be managed out of the law office. So Solicitor Timmons would indicate what assistant solicitor he would like to handle the matter. One of the rationales for having Attorney Hall, City Solicitor Hall come to the Department of Public Works, because at the time there were sufficient amount of claims and issues that were Public Works related, and the solicitor and I both felt that it would be helpful to provide a better service to those folks who had claims, and better for the taxpayers if we embedded an assistant solicitor within the Department of Public Works. It so happened that that horrific winter occurred, and we had a tremendous amount of fence claims. It also happened that there were some other issues involving flooding. So Attorney Hall has been marvelous in her proactivity in addressing those claims. But it's still under the umbrella of the city solicitor. So with respect to fence claims, Solicitor Hall came up with a relatively innovative plan, where instead of having 150 or 200 of our constituents seek a claim against the law office or against the city and wait months and months or years for resolution, she came up with a system where we went out to bid for 3 or 4 different kinds of fence repair folks, and the city selected those individuals who were better priced, and then we corresponded with all the people that we knew of who had submitted claims. And depending upon the type of service that they needed, we would connect the homeowner with the service provider, get a right of entry, they would agree, sign off on it, and all of that. I believe about 134 or so of those claims were resolved relatively quickly, very few complaints, and then what happened is that the funds were exhausted. And I believe you folks voted on an additional appropriation a few months ago. So there are...
Can you just, I'm following you, like what you're saying, what were the underlying funds that were exhausted prior to the additional appropriation?
Claims.
Out of the DPW budget? Or out of the budget?
That was out of the solicitor budget.
Okay, all right.
That's my understanding.
Okay.
So, because I don't have a claims budget other than water sewer, for obvious reasons.
Right.
So the funding, as I understand it, was not sufficient in the solicitor's budget. So unfortunately, and if I'm misspeaking, I'm sure Mr. Timmons can as the funds diminish, it put Solicitor Hall in a difficult position because she had these folks who had been very patient, very cooperative, very understanding, but we could no longer utilize the process that was so successful for the previous 130 plus. So there are, fortunately, a smaller number. And those claims, I think, are, by assumption, is being managed out of the law office. And at this point, a few of them would be, I assume, more monetary in nature. But to answer your question, as I told you today, her function or her responsibility may change on July 1st.
Right.
But the legal brain is still there.
Right.
So to answer your question, whatever assistance we could be, either for the solicitor or to a claimant or to the mayor, obviously we'll provide this service. But to answer your question generally, I do not have the authority to perform legal work on behalf of the city. That's the solicitor. And Deirdre was operating under that umbrella, and as the manager of the department, who had her there, it was a question of just managing the work, making sure it was done properly, and then moving her in other directions if there was sufficient work in that particular area.
So I don't want to leave the claims issue for too long, but in the budget, which assuming it passes tonight, which I think it will, because there's only on hold relative to TPAL, but is that going to be the current operation? So Deidre's going to, or the person who's currently the attorney assigned to, is going to a new function. Terrific, well-deserved, she'll do great. Are you backfilling that other position? Is that structure going to remain the same, or?
It's not in the budget. If the solicitor and the mayor wish to go back to what we had,
It's not in your budget. It was never, I don't think it was ever in your budget. It was in the solicitor.
in the beginning, it was not. In the beginning, it was an assistant city solicitor that was embedded within the Department of Public Works. We tried, in the beginning, it was a trial effort for a number of months, and then it became still within the solicitor budget, but more embedded within the department. And then I believe the second year, or the second and a half year, moved it over within that. So there was a legal counsel position within the Department of Public Works. For the compliance manager, which is an equal responsibility with law, engineering, administration, obviously reading regulations and moving policy to either maintain compliance or bring the department within compliance across the board, water, sewer, drain, rear yard management, trash collection, all of them. So it was a perfect fit for an individual that had been working within the department and had a tremendous amount of ability to move in that direction as
So why don't we drop that position? I mean, it looks like it was successful. I mean, I think by all accounts it was successful to have an attorney embedded in DPW. It made a lot of sense. It seemed like the flow went a lot better with some things. So what's the rationale for not filling that position or not going forward with that policy that there's an attorney in the DPW?
Again, I'm not an appropriator. I'm an advocate manager, present the budget, get back the budget, and advocate for it. So
you're a good soldier.
But let me go back to say, in my day, which was quite a lot of them, the police, and I'm sure the Chief Keenan would be aware of this as well. The city had lawyers in the police department, so the city solicitor would be assigned to the police department, and that made obviously great sense. They're doing warrants and legal issues, and whether it be for training or advice and all of that. So not only is it, I think, cost effective in serving a better need, but having the choice of a compliance manager or legal counsel where we had a city solicitor's office that could serve that public need, and not having a compliance manager position, I opted to take the funds from legal counsel and move them into the compliance realm. But
and did you make the issue of at some point did you make the case for having an attorney?
The issue of 145, 150 employees again, we have tremendous hardworking individuals, 1139, 2 PEA supervisory unit and managers we have. The human resources issue is tremendous. Family medical leave.
You're going to make the case. I agree with that. I think this should be
so even outside the claims issue,
why there isn't.
Even outside the claims issue, the personal human resource issue, obviously we have snow every winter, and by the nature of that matter, we have snow damage claims, we have backups, we have water main breaks.
Okay, if I could just
so
hold you down for a minute, all right? I'm with you. If I could turn perhaps to the mayor's representative to explain why the attorney, Commissioner Mundy and I both think is a great idea, isn't being filled with Mr. Walker.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, as the Commissioner mentioned, I think it's a question of prioritization. The Commissioner and the Mayor had a discussion about the needs of the department. The Commissioner outlined the needs for this compliance officer's, compliance manager's position. It suggested that it would be a logical transfer from the position currently held and that currently exists to this.
Yeah, I don't disagree with the compliance.
Right, exactly.
Let's talk about that.
And the rationale is that, again, like anything else, we plan to keep an eye on it, rededicate the resources in the solicitor's office the way they have been previously, and determine perhaps next year we decide, yeah, you know what, we do need to add that extra person down at DPW for this very purpose. But again, I mean, we're not. It's the give and take of the budget process throughout the winter when the mayor meets with department heads, and he felt that we could lean on the solicitor's office to see if we can make it through this year, to see if that's the appropriate way to go. If it's not, you know, we'll certainly be back before this body to supplant the DPW budget next year with a solicitor's position.
Supplement. Plan would be replaced. So rather than having a DPW budget, we just have one attorney.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I can't help it here. So I guess what my next question would be is the solicitor's budget, we added another attorney position. You want recently?
Do not believe we did, Council.
Could we replace him? What happened?
How many people know?
There's new faces in the solicitor's office. I thought we added a position.
We do not have a position in the solicitor.
In either the past budget or in this budget?
Do not believe so.
Mr. Timmons, is that correct? No, we didn't add any solicitors? Okay. All right, well, I think we should have an attorney in the budget. I'm not going to vote against the budget. Unless you want me to, Commissioner. I'm sorry? I'm happy to do the favor of voting against the budget if you want me to make it some
Well, I never suggest that you do anything other than what your rule emphasizes.
I'm going to leave it. But thank you. Keep up the good work, Commissioner. You're doing good work. It's much appreciated by myself. Even if I don't tell you more. Thank you.
It's always worth the price of admission for you to interact.
It's up to you.
There's a motion on the floor. And
I have a presentation, or is there a motion?
Oh, there's a motion and a second. So with that, Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Council King.
Yes.
Council DeBon.
Yes.
Council Finn.
Yes.
Council Harris.
Yes.
Council Hughes. Yes. Council LaFars. Council Gann. Yes. Council Palmucci.
Yes.
Chairman Moore.
Yes. Thank you,
Thank you,
Commissioner.
Jim. Thank you.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is the Director of Finance, Mark Kavanaugh. He's got 3 areas he's going to cover. The first is the non-analyst position. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you, Jim. At the original budget hearing for finance, the budget was put on hold pending additional information, specifically the job description for the economic analyst position. And the job description has been completed and is in the packet for the agency.
That is just going to open up. Any questions for?
Point of order, I guess. This is required in the committee context. That a motion for reconsideration is required. And, again, I'll make the motion for reconsideration given the fact that it was my cut. Very clear about this, that this is not about personalities or whatever from my perspective. And I appreciate having the job description now, at this particular point in time. I think that the nature of the cut, given the amount of the salary that was being offered, and again, this is part of a larger issue that I'm concerned about, is that we went through a whole process last year of alleged comparability studies and was happy to support at that particular point in time suggestions that were rationally being made as to why different people should be being paid different vertical job descriptions and the like. So again, I know there may be different feelings, so I'm happy to put forward a motion for consideration. My own inclination is a $5,000 cut is still a very incredibly significant raise for that particular position. So again, I would motion to cut the $5,000 as part of it. Do we do that? Madam Moderator, it's $5,000, correct?
That is correct.
So I would choose to remain with that. But
Can I just ask a question on the motion? So you cut the entire petition. Is that what happened? And you're asking to, what's your motion?
again, because of the fact that at the time I said I'd be open to reconsidering it at the point when I made the initial cut, then I'm happy to put it back out there. If my colleagues have changed their mind, if they don't think that that's an appropriate cut, this is your opportunity.
So what is the motion that you
The
would
motion is the same that I made last time, to cut $5,000, which brings it, Madam Auditor, to you, Mr. Chairman, Madam Auditor, what are we talking about?
I believe, Counselor, you'll have to make a motion to reconsider,
That's what
and that motion would have to be voted on.
Thank you, yeah, a motion to reconsider that. So moved. I'm not even sure if it's required. But that's okay.
Point of clarification. Motion to reconsider voting for the reduction in this specific position.
I'm taking the vote over again, basically.
Okay.
That's what I'm suggesting.
Second. Any discussion?
Councilor King.
No.
Councilor DeBona.
No.
Councilor Finn.
Yes.
Councilor Harris.
No.
Councilor Hughes.
Wait a minute, sorry. Just to clarify, this is to bring it back up.
This is to bring it back out.
Okay, okay. Then yes. Yes, then yes.
No, can I put one of those things? But he's made a motion to reconsider as a member of the prevailing party. He's moving to reconsider. So is the motion passed previously to cut $5,000? The reconsideration would be to uncut the $5,000.
Yes.
So to reconsider that motion, a yes vote would be to restore $5,000. A no vote would be to keep the cut of $5,000.
That's what we do.
If I could ask, perhaps to be comfortable again.
Councilor King.
Yes.
Councilor DeBona.
Yes.
Councilor Finn.
Yes.
Councilor Harris.
Yes.
Councilor Hughes.
Yes.
Councilor Morris. Councilor Liang.
Yes.
Councilor Calhoun.
Yes.
Chairman White.
Yes. So, at this point, I would propose that we cut $5,000 from that specific position, from personal services.
Okay, motion on the floor to cut by $5,000 in personal services. Any discussion on the motion?
I'll second the motion and through you to his maker, ask what the purpose of this particular cut is in terms of the last vote we took. Explain it to me, Joe, what are we doing?
All I was doing was trying to bring it back out, which I don't think in a finance committee, quite honestly, we need to do. I mean, as long as I've always been here, people have always been able to essentially just, because we're in a committee, say, hey, you know, I'm open to people want another chance to vote on this specific issue. I'm fine. My vote's I'm bringing it out simply because of the extent that it required such a motion. But my own feeling regarding it is still the same, is that I think that I'm moving, that we cut the $5,000. I'm willing to get the reconsideration. And now, we're in the reconsideration, it's back on the table. I'm moving that we cut the $5,000 just as I did in the original session.
Council Palmer, if I may, I believe that the reason that was put forward and when this was presented to us, there was no job description, there was really nothing attached to this particular position initially. And I believe if you're thinking about what happened between then and now, it's essentially they come up with a job description.
Correct.
That might be.
Sure, and while we're still at the floor, Councilor Finn, you would still like to see this particular line item cut by $5,000?
Correct, Council.
Okay. Okay, so parliamentarily, I think we just took that vote. Because
I think, again, I would rely on the parliamentarian. I think a reconsideration is bringing it back onto the table, so to speak.
I don't believe so. A motion to reconsider is a motion on the vote, not a motion to... But we're already halfway down the path, so why go backwards? Let's just, you know. So I'm fine.
Okay. Good. Any further discussion?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to clarify, get back to why we
particularly cut the 5,000 when it passed. Can you just explain real quick, the economic analysis is a new position. Did you have a different position in there?
There was an analyst position, Counselor. It was a financial analyst, strictly financial. The economic element has been added to the position, enhancing the value of the position to the department, not only the finance, but the position is also available for use by uses, right, for planning in their business.
So the financial analysis was a salary of $54,450.
Correct.
That is going into 2017 at zero, which we tried to get from in the beginning.
Correct. The position is now economic.
So economical analysis is new. It's a new position.
Correct.
So it's starting basically at 70,269. There's no compare and contrast of the two salaries. It's a totally new position.
Only that they're supportive of the department from an analysis basis on different data. The economic analysis provides a wider range of views.
You know what? I'm going to reconsider my vote, and because of you explaining it that way, which other departments that did that, they had to zero out. It's no longer this position, there's a new position down here, and it goes that way. This looks like there's a big jump, and this is a different position. So on that, I'm going to reconsider my vote. It's come down. You guys can vote on it. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman.
Any further discussion on Council Finn's motion? So the motion, Council Forrest.
You brought me up to speed.
All right, so we're talking about cutting about $5,000 personal services on the motion. Roll.
Council King.
No.
Council Bowman.
No.
Council Finn.
Yes.
Council Harris. Council Hughes.
No.
Council Forrest.
No.
Council Eden.
Yes.
Council Calhoun.
Yes.
Council Chairman Bowman.
No.
Motion 7.
Sorry, Mark. Next. Any further questions for the record? Motion approved. Any discussion on the motion for the overall budget?
On the finance budget, Council King.
Yes.
Council Bowman.
Yes.
Council Finn.
Yes.
Council Harris.
Yes.
Council Hughes.
Yes.
Council LaBarge.
Yes.
Council Eden.
Yes.
Council Calhoun.
Yes.
Chairman Moore.
Yes. Okay. It's the budget. Mr. Kavanaugh, I believe you're going to speak about the next item, which is the appointees, department head, and non-union administrative increases.
On that point, Mr. Chairman, I would like to refer back to the original opening statement regarding the mayor's position when he introduced the budget on May 2nd, and reiterate that the move to back out the funds out of the line items in each department, put them in a reserve for appropriation, would require the administration to come back before council for any future appropriations. We would like to handle the union first, get all the unions settled, and after the unions are settled, consideration would be given for the non-union positions at that time.
Any questions procedurally, councilors? Council Finn?
Mark, could I simply request that when those come back, that they come back in the form of that order, it would also include an order that's clearly articulating each position?
We can do that. We can do that, council.
Does it, and again, from a procedural thing, again, does it require a motion on our part to just basically approve or vote to simply approve this transfer prior to any discussion? If we were hypothetically going to cut something or whatever, does it require we vote that we agree that this is going to the reserve for appropriation?
Yeah, I would assume so.
Okay, well then I so move that.
Yeah, something.
I have what the finance director gave me this afternoon was a sum of $1,544,066.59. And that would be transferred into the reserve for appropriation salaries. And that's how it would reflect on the council warrant.
And at this particular point in time, could you outline for us specifically what we're talking about in terms of the overall budget increase in that?
That actually is, there are, I believe, 7 unions that have not completed their negotiations. It also includes department head and appointees, and it also includes non-union administrative staff.
And the department heads breakdown roughly what?
The department head breakdown is $117,191.33.
And the non-union
The
staff?
non-union staff make up $17,560.61.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
All set, thank you.
Can I just ask a clarification on the motion? What's the motion on the floor?
Just, you move approval.
The motion was I was moving, approving, or a motion that we approve the reserve for appropriation, the amounts that the auditor just outlined.
Thank you.
All set. All right, motion on the floor to move approval.
Council King.
Yes.
Council Vaughn.
Yes.
Council Finn.
Yes.
Council Harris.
Yes.
Council Hughes.
Yes.
Council LaForest.
Yes.
Council Leeang. Yes. Council Calhoun. Chairman Ballhorn.
Yes. Motion by Mark. Thank you.
Good evening. All right, at this point, we are going to recess the Finance Committee.
What, did we approve, did we finally approve also his budget?
We did. Yeah. We did. We went economist, the budget, then into the salaries.
I don't think we did the budget with all due respect to Mr. Chairman.
Oh, no, the whole budget. I'm sorry, Joe. We're going to recess, go into the quasi-city council.
That's not what I'm referring to.
We're talking about the Finance Committee.
I don't want to contribute to what.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. Okay. At this point, we're going to recess at 9 p.m. And we'll go into the regular scheduled city council meeting.